The island at the edge of memory. Somewhere in the Bay of Bengal there's a small island. It sits far from busy ports and shipping lanes. The island is wrapped in forest. A coral reef circles it gently. It rests quietly in warm tropical waters. The tides visit this place. The seabirds visit too. Clouds pass slowly overhead. The people who live here call it home. They have lived here a very long time, perhaps 60,000 years, perhaps even longer than that. Nobody knows for certain. What we do know is simple. They have lived apart from the world. They follow their own rhythms. They keep their own quiet ways. They need nothing from beyond their shores. Tonight, as you settle in, let's rest here. Let the day drift gently away. We'll spend some time near this place, not to disturb it, not to ask too much, just to wonder at it softly, to imagine it from far away. What might life be like there? A world small enough to know completely. The same beaches for thousands of years. The same forests. The same waters. Your family has been here forever, longer than any written history remembers. If this reflection helps you relax, that's good. Feel free to dim the lights. Lie down if you'd like. Turn on a fan for background noise. Let your breathing slow down. There's nowhere you need to go, nothing you need to do. Just listen for a while, and then when you're ready, sleep. The island sits in waters that stay warm. The Bay of Bengal surrounds it completely. It stretches toward India to the west. Myanmar lies to the east. The Indian Ocean opens to the south. The currents here are usually gentle. They strengthen during monsoon seasons. Weather systems sweep across the water then. They bring rain to everything they touch. But most days the water is calm. From above, the island looks like a circle of green surrounded by reef. Then comes the deeper blue of ocean. The forest covers almost everything. Dense trees create a thick canopy. They've grown and fallen for thousands of years, then grown again. Only at the edges does the green change. The land meets the sea there. Other colors appear. White sand beaches stretch along some shores. Dark rocky areas line others. Mangrove roots tangle in sheltered spots. Little lagoons allow these trees to grow. Each part of the shore is different. The reef itself is alive. Tiny creatures built it over millions of years. Coral polyps stack their skeletons high. Now the reef protects the island. It softens the ocean waves. When the tide is high, the reef hides. You can only see where waves break differently. When the tide is low, parts emerge. Tide pools appear everywhere. Shallow channels still hold water. We cannot visit this place. We will almost certainly never walk there. The people have made this clear. Across many generations they chose solitude, so we will not approach. We will simply imagine from here. What might such a place feel like? What might it mean to call it home? Let's wonder about that together. Let's rest with that thought. Where the forest meets the sea. The island itself is not very large. You could walk across it in hours, if the forest allowed easy passage, which it does not. The interior is dense with trees. Thick tropical growth fills everything. Sunlight filters into soft green shadows. Vines hang from the branches. Some are thick as a person's wrist. Others are thin and delicate. They all reach toward whatever light exists. The canopy above is very complete. Almost no direct sun reaches the floor. Shade-loving plants thrive there. They live in perpetual twilight. Birds call from somewhere in the canopy. Their songs are unfamiliar to most ears. These are species from this part of the world. They've adapted to this specific place. Some calls are simple and repetitive, a single note repeated with variations. Others are more complex. They rise and fall in patterns. It almost sounds like conversation. Perhaps the birds are discussing important things. The air beneath the trees is warm. Humidity fills everything. A faint salt smell drifts from the ocean. The sea is never far away here. The island is small enough for that. Breezes carry moisture inland. Waves create a constant background sound. It's muffled by distance and trees. But it's always there. Those who live here probably don't notice it. Around the island's edges, beaches appear. Some are sandy and pale. The sand is made of coral fragments, shells broken down over centuries. Waves did this patient work. The sand feels soft underfoot. Some places have larger shell pieces. The beach looks mottled there, white and cream and pale pink. Other shores are rocky. Harder stone resisted the erosion. Tide pools form when water recedes. Small fish get stranded there. Crabs scuttle between rocks. Sometimes a jellyfish appears. The pools are warm. The sun heats them at low tide. Creatures there adapt to this cycle. Exposure and submersion. Warming and cooling. The reef extends outward from shore. It creates a shallow lagoon. The water there is calm and clear. It's warm enough to stand in comfortably. The depth changes with the tide. Sometimes it's ankle deep. Sometimes it's chest deep. The bottom mixes sand and coral. Living formations create complexity. Fish move through this space. Some dart quickly between hiding spots. Others drift lazily in warm water. They're all part of an old ecosystem. It has worked this way forever, longer than human memory stretches. The people here know this lagoon. They've known it for countless generations. They know where fish gather in morning. They know where fish hide when it's hot. They know which reef parts are safe. They know which parts will cut feet. They know the tides completely. They probably don't think about it consciously. The knowledge lives in their bodies, as natural as breathing. The sounds of this place are constant. Waves breaking on the outer reef, a continuous low roar. It varies with tides and weather, but it never entirely stops. Birds call from forest and water. Wind rustles through palm fronds. Insects hum in the vegetation. Their sounds rise and fall with temperature. Beneath everything is a kind of silence. Not really silence at all. Just the absence of mechanical noise. No engines, no electronics, nothing artificial. At night the sounds change. Different insects take over. Different birds make their calls. The waves seem louder in darkness. Fewer visual distractions compete. And above everything stars appear. More than most modern people have seen. The Milky Way stretches across darkness. It looks like a river of light. So bright it almost seems to glow. This is the setting for life here. A small island dense with forest, circled by reef, washed by warm waters, visited by no one from outside. when morning comes to the island. Imagine waking as first light filters through. The air is still cool from night. It will warm quickly once the sun rises. The transition happens gradually, almost impossible to notice at first. First, there is just darkness, complete and enveloping. Then a lightening at the edges. Something is changing in the sky. Then comes gray, a soft wash of pre-dawn color. The world becomes shades of shadow. And finally, true light arrives, warm and golden, slanting through the trees. Birds are already calling when light comes. They've been calling for some time. Their songs begin in darkness. The earliest birds start with tentative notes. They're testing the morning. As light grows, more voices join. The forest fills with a chorus. It seems too large for this small island. So many songs overlapping, all blending into one sound. That sound says morning has arrived. The forest wakes in layers. First the birds, then the insects. They resume humming as temperature rises. Then larger creatures stir. Wild pigs move in the undergrowth. Other animals begin their routines. The plants respond to light too. Leaves adjust slightly to catch sun. Internal processes shift from night to day. Morning light through the canopy is special. It arrives in scattered fragments, broken by leaves and branches. Countless small patches of brightness appear. They move slowly as the sun rises. A gentle animation on the forest floor. A slow dance of light. Some spots stay in shadow until midday. Others catch the earliest light. They warm while surrounding areas stay cool. Somewhere in a clearing, smoke rises. A fire has been kept burning all night. The smoke is thin and white. It drifts upward through still air, visible from a distance, a smudge against the green trees. This fire has likely burned here for generations, tended by hands that learned from other hands, keeping alive a flame, connecting present to distant past. The smell of wood smoke drifts. It mixes with other morning smells. Damp earth, flowering plants releasing fragrance, salt air carried by gentle breezes, the particular richness of tropical forest, a smell of constant growth and decay, life cycling through its stages, accelerated by warmth and moisture, always changing, always the same. We don't focus on specific people yet, just the general sense of waking, a community beginning its day, the rhythm of rising, the first movements of rested bodies, the unhurried transition from sleep to activity. There's no alarm clock here, no schedule to keep, no rush to be anywhere. The day unfolds according to its nature, shaped by the sun and tides, shaped by the needs of the body. The air is still cool from night. Dew still clings to leaves. A particular freshness exists now, only in the first hour after sunrise. This freshness will not last. As the sun climbs higher, air warms. Humidity rises. The day settles into tropical character. But for now there's crispness, a sense of the world newly made, washed clean by darkness, ready to begin again. Perhaps in shelters people are stirring, stretching muscles stiffened during sleep. rubbing eyes not ready for light, sitting up slowly, letting consciousness return fully. The movements are unhurried. There's no reason to hurry. The day stretches ahead, vast and patient, full of time, fishing spears and woven nets. The tools here are simple but effective, made from materials found nearby, shaped by hands over years of practice, refined over countless generations. Nothing here is manufactured. Nothing comes from a factory. Everything is made by hand, from scratch, using ancient techniques, passed from parent to child. Consider the fishing spear. It begins as a branch or sapling, selected from the forest for straightness, for length, for the right flexibility and strength. The selection itself requires knowledge. Which trees produce the best wood? Which parts of the tree work best? What size and shape is needed? This knowledge isn't written anywhere. It exists only in living minds, passed on through demonstration, through practice. The selected wood must be shaped. This requires other tools, perhaps a sharp stone with a flaked edge, capable of cutting and scraping, perhaps a shell with a natural edge, useful for finer work, perhaps fire to harden the wood. Each tool represents its own knowledge, accumulated wisdom about materials, about techniques, about the best ways to work. The shaping takes time. The wood is stripped of bark, smoothed of irregularities, tapered to a sharp point. The point might be hardened by fire. This requires careful attention. Too little heat and wood stays soft. Too much, and it chars or cracks. The right amount creates a lasting edge, a point that holds through many uses. The finished spear seems simple, a stick with a sharp end, nothing more. But it represents hours of work and generations of knowledge. It's perfectly adapted for catching fish. Light enough to carry easily, long enough to reach the water, balanced well enough for throwing. Every aspect reflects practical experience, accumulated over thousands of years. Fishing nets require different knowledge. They're made from plant fibers. Specific plants produce strong material, flexible enough for weaving. The gathering is skilled work. Which plants to use? When to harvest them? How to process the raw material? The fibers must be stripped and cleaned, perhaps soaked or beaten to soften, then twisted into cordage, small fibers combined into strands, strands combined into rope. The weaving itself is repetitive, the same motions over and over. There's a meditative quality to it, a rhythm the hands find and follow. The mind can wander elsewhere. The movements become automatic. A net might take many hours, spread across multiple days. A background task filling empty moments. Canoes are perhaps most complex, carved from single logs. Trees selected for size and wood quality, felled using fire and simple tools, hollowed using more fire, more cutting. The process takes days or weeks, patient work requiring many skills, understanding of wood and fire, of balance and buoyancy, of stresses from water on a vessel. A finished canoe must balance correctly, sitting stable without tipping easily, light enough for one or two people, strong enough for waves and currents, waterproof enough for practical use. These requirements demand great skill, not specifications from a book, just knowledge passed through generations. Every tool here represents this knowledge. A child watches an elder make a spear, then tries to make one themselves. The first attempts are clumsy, wrong wood or poor shaping, but that's expected. Learning takes time. The hands develop understanding, separate from what the mind knows. Gradually skill develops. The hands learn what words cannot explain. Knowledge becomes physical, stored in muscle memory, as natural as walking. None of this is written down, no books or instruction manuals. Everything remembered in living minds, taught through example. If forgotten, it's gone forever. No backup copies exist, and yet for 60,000 years enough. Essential skills passed along, parent to child, thousands upon thousands of generations. An unbroken chain of knowing. The slow rhythm of the tides. The tides follow a pattern here, a pattern as old as the moon itself. Twice each day water rises, pushed by gravitational forces, operating on vast scales. Twice each day water falls, retreating toward the open ocean, exposing portions of the reef. This rhythm has continued for billions of years, since the moon first formed. It will continue for billions more, long after everything human has passed. For those who live here, tides are practical. They shape every single day. Low tide means certain things are possible. High tide means other things. The timing shifts slightly each day. The moon moves through its cycle, but it's predictable enough to know. Those who pay attention understand. The tide will be low this morning. It was low yesterday afternoon. Tomorrow it will be low later. The pattern repeats endlessly. Life organizes around it. Low tide in morning is gathering time. Time to walk onto the exposed reef, to collect shellfish from the pools. The water is ankle deep in places, warm and clear. The bottom is visible beneath you. The reef is rough underfoot. It requires careful steps. Some surfaces are relatively smooth, worn down by water and time. Others are sharp, covered with living coral, broken shells that can cut feet. Those who've walked here since childhood know. Their feet find safe paths automatically. Shellfish cling to rocks. They hide in crevices. Finding them requires patience. Extracting them requires skill. Some are easy to collect, sitting exposed in shallow pools, stranded by retreating water. Others are wedged into tight spaces, attached firmly to hard surfaces. The gathering requires bending and reaching, hands working in warm water, eyes searching for telltale signs. The shells are rough in hands, crusted with barnacles and seaweed. But inside the meat is sweet. The work is slow and steady, almost meditative. There's no rush. The tide won't return for hours. Each shellfish is extracted and examined, kept or returned depending on quality. A basket gradually fills. The sun climbs higher. The water in pools warms. The morning passes gently. This isn't dramatic work. It isn't exciting or dangerous. It's simply necessary. Gathering food that has sustained people for countless generations before. The same pools visited for thousands of years. The same species of shellfish collected. The same basic techniques used. And yet the work continues. Day after day. Generation after generation. Because shellfish continue to grow, and people continue to need food. High tide in afternoon means other things. The reef is covered now. Activities shift to different tasks, perhaps fishing from canoes. In deeper water beyond the reef, the canoes launch from certain beaches, where water is deep enough at any tide, or they're paddled through reef channels that remain navigable even at low tide. The paddling itself is skilled work. The body learns through practice how to move the craft efficiently, how to balance against waves, how to position for casting nets or thrusting spears. Fishing in deeper water is different. It requires more patience, more attention, more skill. The fish are faster here, warier than shellfish. They must be approached carefully, anticipated, fooled into striking range. Hours might pass without success, or a single moment might yield much. The uncertainty is accepted. There will always be another tide, another opportunity, another day. Perhaps afternoon heat suggests rest in the shade of the forest during the hottest hours, when even fish seem sluggish. The forest provides relief from sun, a cool, dappled world beneath trees. Perhaps someone naps. Perhaps someone works on a project, weaving fibers into rope, shaping a piece of wood. Perhaps children play familiar games. Their laughter carries through trees. The day organizes around natural rhythms. No clock required. No schedule needed. No external authority. The tides announce themselves through the changing waterline. Everyone knows what each phase means. There's nothing anxious about this. It simply is what it is, as it has always been. Cooking fires and shared meals. The fires here have burned for generations, in the same places probably. Fire is maintained, not created new. Coals are kept alive through night, fed fresh fuel each morning. This is easier than starting from scratch. A bed of coals properly tended lasts. It can last indefinitely, passed down like any inheritance, from one generation to the next. The cooking fires are community heart. They provide heat for preparing food, light for working after sunset, warmth on the occasional cool night, a gathering place for everyone. The fire belongs to no individual. It belongs to everyone, a shared resource, requiring shared responsibility. The foods prepared here are simple, but varied. Fish from the lagoon, caught fresh that day or before, roasted directly over coals, or wrapped in leaves and steamed. The flesh flakes easily when done, white and delicate, tasting of the sea it came from. Shellfish from the reef, heated until they open, each one a small mouthful. Protein and minerals gathered from tide pools. Wild pig from the forest provides more. Red meat rather than white. Richer and more filling. The pigs are hunted with bows, tracked through undergrowth, approached with patience, killed with skill. The meat is prepared various ways, roasted or smoked, perhaps dried for preservation. Every part of the animal is used. Nothing is wasted here. Resources are limited. Effort is required to obtain them. Fruits and roots round out the diet, gathered from the forest. Some are sweet, some are starchy, some have flavors difficult to describe. Knowledge of plants is essential, which are edible, which are not, which must be cooked, which eaten raw, which parts are useful. This knowledge accumulated over generations. Mistakes in the distant past taught lessons. Those lessons are remembered today, even if the incidents are forgotten. The meal is shared as darkness gathers. People eat together, as they've eaten every evening, for as long as anyone remembers. Social bonds are reinforced this way. Food passes between people, portions allocated by need or custom. Children are fed. Elders are respected. The patterns reflect ancient relationships, rules everyone understands, without needing them explained. The sounds of cooking fill the evening, sizzling as moisture escapes, crackling as flames consume fuel, soft sounds of chewing, of satisfaction, of bodies receiving what they need, the murmur of conversation perhaps, or comfortable silence. The fire provides warmth and light, creating a sphere of visibility. In the growing darkness, the smells are distinctive. Wood smoke always present, roasting fish with heating oils, the particular smell of tropical fruits, sweet and slightly caramelized. These smells have filled evenings here for 60,000 years, generation after generation. Sitting around fires like these, eating foods prepared in similar ways. The tastes are fresh and simple. Fish caught that day tastes different. Different from yesterday's fish. Different from dried or smoked fish. Each food has its own character. Nothing is processed or refined. Nothing has traveled thousands of miles. Everything comes from within sight, gathered and prepared by the same hands that will consume it. After the meal, the body settles. Digestion begins, drawing energy inward, creating heaviness and contentment, suggesting rest rather than activity. The fire is fed a bit more, building up for warmth. Conversation might continue quietly, voices sharing observations or stories, or simply silence falls, each person lost in their own thoughts. As darkness deepens and stars emerge in full brilliance, the fire burns lower as evening continues. Flames give way to coals, orange and red, pulsing gently with each breath of wind. Heat radiates outward, warming bodies gathered close. Someone might stir the coals, rearranging them to burn evenly, adding a small piece of wood, keeping the fire alive through night. This tending is habitual, almost unconscious, the actions of someone who's maintained fires their entire life, needing no instruction, and eventually people move toward sleep. The day is ending, the body is tired, the fire will be watched. It will be waiting in the morning. Words that belong to no one else. The language here is unlike any other. It has developed in complete isolation, with no influence from any other tongue, for longer than linguists can comprehend. We have never heard it spoken, never recorded it, never analyzed its sounds. We don't know what it sounds like. When a mother sings to her child, when friends laugh together, when elders pass down knowledge, and yet we know language exists here, because language exists wherever humans exist. It's one of our defining characteristics, as fundamental as using tools. Every human community has language. There's no reason to think this differs. What might such a language be like? We can only imagine. Perhaps it has sounds unfamiliar to us. Phonemes shaped by particular movements, developed in isolation over 60,000 years. Perhaps it has words we wouldn't think of, distinctions we wouldn't make, categories reflecting unique experience of living on this one small island, surrounded by ocean. There are probably words for every fish. Not general words like fish, but specific words for each species, each size, each condition. Words distinguishing fish good to eat from those not worth the trouble. Words identifying where particular fish are found, when they're most active, how they behave when approached. This detailed vocabulary exists elsewhere, in languages connected to specific places. There's no reason this would differ. There are probably words for every tide phase, not just high and low, but all the gradations between, each with implications for activities, words capturing water's trajectory, whether it's rising or falling, how quickly it's changing, what it will be like in an hour. There are probably words for kinds of rain that we have no names for. The rain that comes suddenly and passes, the rain that settles in for days, the rain that starts soft and intensifies. Words for kinds of wind, the wind from northeast bringing dry weather, the wind from southwest bringing storms. Each pattern has different implications. Each probably has its own name. We imagine children learning to speak, as children everywhere do. First, the babbling of infancy, sounds made without meaning, the mouth practicing movements. Then the first words, simple labels for important things. Mother, father, food. Then more words, and more. Eventually sentences, complex thoughts expressed through sound, meaningful only to those who learn the code. Learning happens through immersion, constant exposure to speech, no formal instruction, no grammar lessons, just the endless river of words, flowing through daily life, repeated often enough for meaning to emerge. Children absorb language naturally, as they absorb everything about culture, gradually without conscious effort. By adulthood, each person possesses everything. The entire accumulated vocabulary. Thousands of words, perhaps, each one learned through use, each capable of being transmitted further. The language exists not on paper, but in living minds, passed along through human connection, stretching back to the beginning. Consider what might be lost if this language ever fell silent. Not just words, but ways of thinking. Not just vocabulary, but categories of understanding. The particular way this language divides the world, the distinctions it makes, the assumptions in its structure, all would be gone, something existing nowhere else, never to be reconstructed. But for now the language lives. Children are learning it now, somewhere on that small island. Adults are using it to coordinate, to share knowledge, to maintain social bonds. Elders are teaching through it, passing on everything they know. The chain continues, as it has for 60,000 years. Where people rest and dream. As darkness falls, people find sleeping places. These are simple structures, shelters rather than houses, made from materials found nearby, branches for the frame, palm fronds for the roof, perhaps woven mats for the floor. They provide shade during day, protection from rain at night, but they're not sealed against the world. Air moves freely through them. Forest sounds enter without obstruction. Sea sounds enter too. The boundary is permeable. Inside and outside blend together. The construction reflects accumulated knowledge. The roof pitch sheds rain effectively. The orientation catches breezes. It blocks wind during storms. Materials are selected carefully for durability and availability, replaced as they wear out. A well-made shelter lasts for years, requiring only occasional repair. The floor probably isn't bare ground. Woven mats provide a softer surface, easier to clean, more comfortable for lying upon. These mats are skilled work. Another product of generations of knowledge. Weaving techniques refined over millennia. Selection of materials, patterns and sizes, all perfected for these specific needs. Lying down on such a mat feels different from modern beds in modern rooms. There's no mattress to cushion, no sheets to wrap around. The surface is firm but not hard, yielding slightly to the body. The air is the same as outside, warm and humid, carrying all the smells of tropical night. The sounds are constant but soothing. Waves on the distant reef, their rhythm so steady it's hypnotic. Insects calling from vegetation, their songs varying with hour and temperature. Occasional rustlings from the forest. Small creatures going about their business. The crackle of a fire burning low, maintained by someone whose turn it is. Soft sounds of other people breathing, shifting, settling into sleep. The darkness isn't complete, even without artificial light. The fire provides a soft glow. The moon casts silver light. Stars provide their faint contribution. Eyes adapted to such darkness see well. Shapes and movements emerge. Invisible to eyes used to electric light. But mostly there is rest. The body tired from daily activities relaxes. Muscles that have worked release tension. Breathing slows and deepens. Moving to the patterns of approaching sleep, the mind begins releasing its grip. Thoughts become looser, less connected, drifting toward the strange logic of dreams. Sleep comes easily here. The body is genuinely tired from physical activity, not just mental fatigue. The environment provides no stimulation, no screens glowing with information, no sounds of traffic or machinery, no alerts demanding attention. There's nothing to do but rest, nothing to attend to, just the gradual loosening of consciousness, the drift toward dreams. What dreams come to people here, we cannot know. Perhaps they're simple. echoes of daily experiences. Perhaps they're profound, connecting dreamers to ancestors, to spirits, to forces beyond ordinary understanding. We only know that sleep comes, as it comes to all of us, closing the day, preparing body and mind for whatever tomorrow brings. What the night sky tells, at night the sky reveals itself fully. The fires have burned low. Most people have settled into sleep, without artificial light competing, without smog or haze to dim things. Stars appear in astonishing numbers, more than most modern people have seen. Thousands of individual points, more than could possibly be counted, scattered across darkness, in patterns unchanged for all human history. The Milky Way stretches across the sky, like a river of light, so bright it almost seems to glow from within. This is our own galaxy, seen from the inside, billions of stars too distant to distinguish, collectively creating a luminous band. The sight is striking, obviously significant. Every culture has developed stories about it. We cannot know what stories are told here, but we can be certain stories exist. This remarkable feature hasn't gone unnoticed. Individual stars stand out from general brilliance. Some are brighter than others, their light more intense, their positions more easily remembered. These serve as landmarks, reference points for tracking other things. The same stars have risen in same positions, at the same seasons, for as long as humans have been here. Perhaps the most stable features of environment, unchanging while everything else cycles. The moon dominates when it's visible, its light strong enough to cast shadows, to illuminate beach and forest in silver. The moon's phases have been tracked forever, its cycle from new to full and back, providing one of the most reliable time measures. No doubt the people here understand this cycle, using it to predict tides, to track seasons, to organize their lives. Planets wander against the fixed stars, bright points moving from night to night, following paths that seem mysterious, until celestial mechanics are understood. We don't know if they distinguish planets, if they've noticed the wandering, if they've developed explanations, but given the clear sky and generations of observation, it seems likely they've noticed much. Stars also tell seasons. Different constellations rise at different times. Their appearance marks transitions between periods with different implications. Perhaps certain stars indicate activities, the arrival of certain fish, the ripening of certain fruits. Perhaps others warn of approaching storms. The stars are not just beautiful, they're useful, a calendar written across the heavens, for anyone with knowledge to read. What stories are told about these stars? What names are given to constellations? What connections drawn between sky and earth? We will never know. These questions remain unanswered. Part of the mystery surrounding this place, but the questions are worth asking, worth contemplating, worth allowing to sit unanswered. As we look at the same sky, for the sky they see is the same stars, the same moon, the same slow rotation of heavens, as Earth turns on its axis. Whatever differences exist in understanding, the raw experience is shared. Looking up at a dark sky, filled with countless lights, something that connects us across all distances of culture and history, a common heritage of wonder, belonging to everyone who has ever lived on this planet, under these stars, passing knowledge through generations. The most remarkable thing may not be isolation, but what isolation has required. For 60,000 years, everything needed has been remembered and transmitted from one generation to the next, without any external aids. No writing to preserve information, no libraries to store knowledge, no recordings to capture anything, just human memory, human teaching, human learning, passing everything that matters, from mind to mind, across vast spans of time. Consider what must be remembered: every edible plant and how to prepare it, every poisonous plant and how to avoid it, every species of fish and where to find them, the tides and their patterns, the seasons and their implications, the weather signs predicting what's coming, construction techniques for shelters, for canoes, for tools, the social rules that keep community functioning, the history whatever is remembered, the stories whatever they contain. All of this, and surely much more, preserved in living memory, generation after generation. Teaching happens continuously, woven into daily life, not separated into special occasions. A child watches an elder make a spear, absorbs information through observation. A young person accompanies an adult on a gathering trip, learns which plants to look for, where they grow. Skills are demonstrated, attempted, corrected, practiced until automatic. Knowledge flows from those who have it to those who need it, not through formal instruction, through ordinary processes of living together. This learning requires time and proximity. You can't learn canoe making from a book. You must be there, present, watching hands that know. You must try yourself, make mistakes, receive correction, try again. Knowledge transfers not just as information, but as embodied skill. The body learning what mind cannot articulate. This is how humans have always learned. Before writing in schools, the oldest form of teaching, in some ways still the most effective. The responsibility for remembering falls heavily on those who possess knowledge. An elder who knows important things carries burden. Their memory contains information that exists nowhere else. That would be lost if they died without teaching. This creates urgency around transmission, makes teaching a central priority. There is no safety net. What is remembered lives on. What is forgotten dies. And things are certainly forgotten. 60,000 years is long. Small populations lose information more easily. If one person who knows a technique dies before teaching someone else, that technique disappears. It may have worked perfectly, may have been useful for generations, but if the chain breaks, it's gone. Those who remain never know what's missing. No record exists of what once was, but what remains must be substantial. Fishing, gathering, hunting, building. These require considerable knowledge. And behind these practical skills lie social and cultural systems. Ways of organizing community. Methods for resolving disputes. Traditions marking important transitions. Stories giving meaning to existence. All must be maintained, taught, learned, preserved across the generations. Children growing up here are unaware. They're receiving a precious inheritance. They're simply learning to live, absorbing skills and knowledge, to become competent adults. They don't know their games teach coordination. Their stories contain important information. They simply live. And in living they learn. By adulthood, each person possesses everything. Everything accumulated over 60,000 years. Everything needed to continue the chain. They received this inheritance from elders. In time, they'll pass it along to their own children, who will pass it to theirs. The chain continues. The knowledge survives. Life goes on. The world surrounded by water. The ocean surrounding this island is everything, both boundary and provider. It defines the limits of the world, creating an edge not easily crossed. But it also fills that world with abundance, providing food and materials, shaping patterns of daily life. The relationship with ocean is central, as fundamental as relationship with land, for communities on continents. The reef creates a protected zone. Within the lagoon, water is calm enough for children to play safely. The bottom is sandy enough for wading. The fish are abundant enough that patient hunters can usually find food. This is the familiar ocean, made known through countless generations. Every coral head is recognized. Every channel is memorized. Every productive fishing spot has been visited thousands of times. Beyond the reef, the ocean changes. Currents are stronger. Waves are higher. Depths are greater. Fish species that rarely enter the lagoon swim there. Larger creatures, too. Sharks and rays. Beings that inspire caution. Even in those who've lived beside ocean forever. The outer ocean is not forbidden, not impossible to navigate, but it requires more skill, more respect than the sheltered lagoon. Canoes venture into outer water when conditions allow. The passage through the reef is possible at certain tides, through channels that those who know can find. Once outside, different challenges appear. Swells lift and drop the small craft. Currents push sideways, requiring constant correction. Weather might change. Conditions might deteriorate. Faster than canoe can return. Those who fish outer water are skilled, confident, but also careful. The ocean is not to be taken lightly. What do these people think about the ocean? We cannot know. Perhaps they see it as provider, grateful for endless abundance. Perhaps they see it as boundary, accepting their world ends where deep water begins. Perhaps they see it as dangerous, aware of all the ways it could harm. Perhaps they see it as sacred, filled with spirits and forces. Whatever their understanding, it has been shaped by 60,000 years. Countless generations fishing these waters, navigating these reefs, watching these patterns. The accumulated observation is vast, more detailed than any scientific survey. They know this ocean in ways no outsider could match. Knowledge practical and immediate, woven into every aspect of life. Their ancestors must have arrived by boat. You cannot get here without crossing water. The island was never connected to mainland. Whoever first came must have possessed skills, the ability to travel across open ocean, to find a small island in a very large sea, whether exploring deliberately, fleeing something behind them, or simply blown off course. They had to have boats and knowledge. Do the people here now remember that crossing? Do they have stories about where ancestors came from? Perhaps. Or perhaps origin has been forgotten, the island becoming so completely home that coming from somewhere else seems impossible. 60,000 years is a long time. Memories can fade, stories can be lost. The present can become so total that the past seems unreal. Either way, they have stayed. Whatever pulled ancestors here, whatever conditions made this seem right, those conditions have been confirmed by 60,000 years of survival. The island has provided enough. The ocean has protected and fed. The community has maintained itself. Through all the challenges time can present, perhaps they remember why ancestors came. Perhaps they simply know this is home, has always been home, will always be home. When the rains return each year, the seasons here aren't marked by temperature, but by the monsoons. Unlike places where winter brings cold and summer brings warmth, the tropics experience different rhythms. The year divides into wet and dry, each with its own character, its own challenges, its own opportunities. The northeast monsoon arrives around November. It lasts until February or March. This is the relatively dry season. Rain comes less frequently. Skies are often clear. The lagoon is calmest during these months. Water smooth and inviting. Fishing is easy. The sea cooperates. Gathering is productive. The forest has had months to grow. Life unfolds at leisurely pace. Weather imposes fewer constraints. Then comes the transition. Winds shift, patterns change. Air becomes heavier, more charged with moisture. Clouds build on the horizon, their shapes more dramatic. The first storms arrive, brief but intense, dropping warm rain that drums on leaves and raises water in nearly dry streams. By May or June, the southwest monsoon settles. Rain becomes regular presence, sometimes gentle, sometimes fierce, always warm. The forest drinks deeply. Vegetation grows lush and green. Streams that were trickles become rushing flows. The lagoon changes color. Runoff carries sediment from land. Usually clear water becomes cloudy and brown. Life adapts to this season. More time spent in shelters, waiting out the worst downpours. Foods gathered during dry season sustain people through periods when fresh gathering is difficult. The rhythm of work shifts. Some days are better spent inside, listening to rain on the roof. The sound of rain on leaves is characteristic. It varies with storm intensity. A gentle patter during light showers, a roar during heaviest downpours. The sound surrounds everything, fills every space, becomes a kind of white noise. Inside a shelter dry and protected, the rain sounds peaceful, even soothing. A reminder the world receives what it needs. The dry months have ended. The cycle continues as always. The monsoon also brings challenges. Strong winds can damage shelters. Flooding can affect low areas. Moisture creates conditions for illness. The forest becomes harder to navigate. Trails turn muddy. Streams become impassable. Life is more constrained. Possibilities narrower. Risks greater. But the monsoon brings benefits too. Rain replenishes groundwater, ensuring fresh water during dry months ahead. Vegetation growing during wet season provides food, and materials used throughout the year. The ecosystem depends on this annual infusion. All creatures have adapted, including the people, those who've lived here for 60,000 years. Have experienced countless monsoon cycles. They know when to prepare, what preparations are necessary, how to maintain shelters against weather, which foods store well, how to process them for preservation, the signs indicating monsoon's end. That dry season approaches, that the cycle begins again. Then around October or November it weakens. Rains become less frequent. Skies begin to clear. The forest, full from months of moisture, begins to dry. Some plants respond by flowering or fruiting. The transition happens gradually, wet giving way to dry, through days and weeks, the weather's character slowly shifting. People notice these signs. Begin adjusting activities, perhaps returning to areas avoided during wet months, resuming activities suspended when rains were heaviest. The rhythm of life expands. Constraints loosen. Possibilities multiply. And so the year turns, as it has turned for 60,000 years. Wet giving way to dry, dry giving way to wet, repeating endlessly, reliable enough to organize life around, varied enough to prevent complete boredom. The people are part of this rhythm, shaped by it, dependent on it, perhaps unaware any other season rhythm exists, anywhere in the world. Living within what the island provides. For 60,000 years, nothing was needed from the outside world. Everything required for survival came from here, from within this small island, and the waters surrounding it. Food, shelter, tools, medicine, everything sourced locally, made by hand, used and repaired, replaced as needed, without any external input. This self-sufficiency is increasingly rare. In the modern world, nearly everyone depends on complex supply chains, spanning the entire globe. The clothes we wear come from multiple continents. The food we eat travels thousands of miles. The devices we use contain components from dozens of countries. We're interconnected in unimaginable ways, dependent on systems too complex to understand. But here none of that exists. The supply chain is simple. The forest, the reef, the hands that gather and craft. No middlemen, no shipping routes, no stores or markets. What you need you obtain yourself, or receive from your community. What you lack you do without, or figure out how to make. There's no catalog to order from, no alternative supplier if sources fail. Just the island, providing what it provides. Human ingenuity adapting to what's available. This simplicity creates both things: security and vulnerability. Security because no external system can fail, no disruption from distant events, no dependence on strangers who might not deliver. The island has provided for 60,000 years. Presumably it will continue, but also vulnerability, because there's no backup, no alternative, no way to import what the island can't supply. If a critical resource fails, if disease strikes food species, if a storm devastates vegetation, there's no outside help to call upon. The community must survive on what remains, or not survive at all. We know this community has survived every challenge 60,000 years presented. This is obvious. People still live here, still carrying on the same basic way that their ancestors lived. But we don't know how many close calls, how many difficult periods, how many times survival hung in balance before situations improved. What we can imagine is stability. That comes from living within known limits. The island is small enough to understand. Every resource cataloged, every location mapped in memory. There are no surprises about what land provides, because land has been providing forever. Patterns are established, possibilities are known, limits are accepted. This creates a different relationship with material goods. Things are valued for utility, not novelty. A tool that works is a good tool, regardless of how long it's been used. There's no pressure to upgrade, no fashion cycle to follow, no status competition based on possessions. What matters is function, determined by unchanging requirements of life. Perhaps this creates freedom, freedom from wanting what you cannot have, freedom from comparisons with others who have more, freedom from endless dissatisfaction, from always seeking something better. When your world is small enough to know, when needs are simple enough to meet, when no advertising tells you what you lack, perhaps contentment comes more easily, or perhaps not. Perhaps there are frustrations we can't imagine. Human nature doesn't change based on circumstance. The same emotions drive them that drive us. Love and fear, hope and despair, satisfaction and longing. They simply express those emotions within a different context, shaped by 60,000 years of isolation. Either way, the island provides. The fish swim in the lagoon. The shellfish cling to the reef. The pigs root in the forest. The fruits ripen in their season. The rains come and go. The cycle continues, has continued longer than we can comprehend, will presumably continue, as long as conditions allow. Others who visited and departed. The isolation here hasn't been absolute. Over centuries, outsiders have occasionally appeared. Ships have passed within sight of beaches. Some have wrecked on the reef. Boats have approached intentionally, carrying people curious enough to try contact. Helicopters have flown overhead. Photographs have been taken from distance. The island is not truly unknown, merely unapproached and unvisited. The responses to intrusions follow a pattern. The people have made clear across generations that they wish to be left alone. They've communicated through actions, not words. since no one has learned their language or been close enough to attempt conversation. The communication has been effective. Those who approach are driven away. Those who persist meet increasing hostility. The message is eventually received by everyone who delivers it. We can understand this response. When strangers appear in your home, unannounced and uninvited, carrying objects you don't recognize, speaking in sounds you don't understand. Caution is a reasonable response. When those strangers keep appearing, despite being told to leave, resistance is reasonable too. When the pattern continues across generations, establishing boundaries becomes cultural imperative, something taught to children, as essential as fishing or building. Perhaps there are stories told about encounters, passed down through generations, stories about strange boats on the horizon, about shipwreck survivors on the beach, about flying objects roaring overhead. We can't know what explanations developed, what meanings assigned to these disruptions. But we can assume events weren't unprocessed. A community maintaining coherence for 60,000 years has found ways to integrate even strange experiences into its understanding of the world. The outside world has responded to rebuffs. With policies of non-contact, laws now protect the island, making it illegal to approach. Without permission that's never granted, Coast Guard vessels patrol the waters. Warning signs inform sailors. Keep your distance. The machinery of modern government has been deployed in service of keeping people away from a place they once tried to reach. This is unusual throughout most of history. Isolation ended when someone powerful decided it should end. Isolated communities have been contacted, conquered, converted, colonized, their resistance overcome, their boundaries violated, their ways transformed or destroyed. The right to be left alone rarely recognized, much less protected. But here that right has been granted, not because these people have power. The world fears. Not because they possess something. The world wants badly enough to take, simply because enough people decided. Leaving them alone is right. Their way of life is worth protecting. The costs of contact, which can be predicted, outweigh any possible benefits. This is a kind of respect, rare in human history. Recognition that not everyone needs inclusion in the global system, a willingness to leave mysteries unsolved, an acceptance that our curiosity, however intense, doesn't give us the right to satisfy it at others' expense. And so the island remains apart. The people continue their lives, undisturbed by tourists or researchers, or missionaries or merchants. The outside world watches from distance, learns what little can be learned, and mostly wonders. What are they doing now? What are they thinking? What do they know that we will never know? The questions hang in the air, unanswered, perhaps unanswerable, part of the permanent mystery. What cannot be known? We come now to the heart of the mystery, the aspects that will forever remain hidden. We can observe from distance. We can measure and photograph. We can make educated guesses based on what we know of other societies. But we cannot know. Not really. Not in the deep sense. That comes from participation, from communication, from shared experience. We do not know their language, not a single word, not a single phrase, not even general characteristics of its sound. We've never been close enough to hear clearly. The language exists, certainly, but its content is hidden, as if it had never been spoken. We do not know their beliefs. Whatever they think about world origins, about human origins, about what happens after death, about forces governing the universe, all of this is hidden. Perhaps they have elaborate cosmologies, detailed explanations for everything observed. Perhaps they have simpler beliefs, or no explicit beliefs at all. Just practices that feel right. Without needing justification, we cannot know. We do not know their stories. Every community has stories, narratives that entertain and instruct. We can assume this community has them, but we've never heard them, cannot imagine their content, cannot know what heroes and villains populate, their cultural imagination, what lessons those characters teach. We do not know their art. Perhaps there is none we would recognize. Perhaps there are elaborate traditions of decoration and representation we've never been close enough to see. Perhaps they paint on things that decay quickly. Perhaps they arrange materials in ways that look natural to outside eyes. Perhaps they express aesthetic impulses through media we wouldn't think to check. We do not know their music. Perhaps they sing. Perhaps they have instruments made from island materials. Perhaps rhythm and melody fill their evenings in ways we would find beautiful, or strange, or both. The sounds exist only on the island, heard only by those who live there, part of a private world. Humanity will never enter. We do not know their social structure. How do they organize themselves? Who leads? How is leadership determined? How are decisions made? Conflicts resolved? Resources distributed? What obligations bind people together? What freedoms do individuals possess? Questions that could be answered by spending time with them, observing and understanding. But we will never spend that time. The answers will remain unknown. We do not know their names, not what they call themselves as a people, not what individuals call each other, not what they call the island, or the sea, or the sky. Everything has a name, presumably, a word that refers to it, allows it to be discussed. But none of those words have reached our ears, the entire vocabulary of their existence, hidden from us. This unknowing is not comfortable. Human beings want to understand, to categorize, to explain. We're curious creatures. Encountering a boundary feels frustrating, even painful. Part of us wants to find a way through, to learn what's hidden, to add this knowledge to everything else. But perhaps unknowing is also valuable. Perhaps there's wisdom in accepting limits, in recognizing that not everything can be known, in allowing some mysteries to remain mysteries. Perhaps this community reminds us that knowledge has boundaries, that the world is larger than our comprehension, that human experience includes possibilities we cannot imagine from our position. They are us genetically, biologically, They have the same capacities we have, the same potential for language and thought, but they've developed that potential in their own direction, along their own path, arriving at a version of human life we can glimpse but never fully understand. That irreducible otherness within our own species might be one of the most valuable things this island and its people offer to our understanding. Another day like every other day. Morning returns to the island. The light grows. The birds begin their calls. The fires are stirred. Coals are uncovered. Fresh fuel is added. People move through familiar routines, marking the beginning of another day. The tide is checked. The weather is assessed. Decisions are made. Most so routine, they barely feel like decisions. About what activities will fill the hours. We imagined a day already. Earlier in this account, gathering shellfish at low tide, fishing in the lagoon, resting during afternoon heat, preparing and sharing food in evening. That day was imaginary, based on what we know of similar communities, but probably not far from truth. The activities that sustain life here are limited by resources available, resources that have been essentially the same for 60,000 years. So the day repeats, not identically, of course. There are variations in weather, in tide timing, in the mood and energy of individuals, good days and difficult days, productive days and disappointing days. But the general pattern remains constant, the same basic activities, performed in the same basic sequence, the same needs met in the same basic ways. This repetition might sound boring to modern ears. We're accustomed to variety, to stimulation, to endless streams of new experiences. The idea of living the same day over and over with only minor variations seems limiting, perhaps even oppressive. But perhaps our standards are skewed. Perhaps constant novelty isn't natural, but artificial, not fulfilling, but exhausting. Perhaps the human mind is better suited to rhythm than randomness, to familiarity than endless change. Perhaps predictability of life here creates comfort that our unpredictable lives cannot provide. Consider what's absent from such a life. There's no news from distant places, no reports of disasters or conflicts, no social media creating comparisons with people you'll never meet, no advertising insisting you need things you currently lack, no career ladder to climb, no keeping up with neighbors, no pressure to seem more successful or more happy than you actually feel. There's just the day, the sun rising and setting, the tide coming in and going out, the work that needs doing, the rest that follows, the faces of people you've known forever, the places you visited since childhood, the rhythms your body knows without being told, the patterns your mind follows without stress. Perhaps this isn't poverty, but wealth. Wealth measured not in possessions, but in peace, in the absence of anxiety, in the presence of enough, consistently, reliably, Without fear, it might disappear tomorrow. The day continues. The sun climbs higher. The heat builds, then eases as afternoon progresses. Toward evening, food is gathered, prepared, shared. The fire burns, is tended, burns lower as night approaches. Stars appear overhead, countless and bright, the same stars that appeared last night, and will appear tomorrow night, and have appeared every night, for 60,000 years. And then sleep comes. The body relaxes, consciousness fades, dreams arrive and depart, without being recorded, or remembered only in fragments, that fade quickly in morning light. The night passes, and then the sun rises again, and the cycle continues, as it has continued, for longer than almost anything else in human experience. Evening falls across the water. The end of the day approaches gently. There's no sharp transition from work to rest, no clock striking the end of a shift, no commute to separate phases of life. The light simply begins to change. The sun drops toward the horizon. Shadows lengthen. The air starts to cool slightly from its midday intensity. Activities naturally wind down as the light fades. Tasks requiring good visibility are completed or set aside for tomorrow. Gathering of materials slows. Work on crafts pauses. Bodies that have been active all day begin to seek rest, following ancient rhythm that governed human life. Before artificial light extended waking hours, the evening meal is the focal point. The fire is built up, fuel added to coals maintained since morning. Flames rise to cook whatever was gathered. The cooking itself is unhurried, given whatever time it needs. The rushing of modern cooking unknown here. Food is prepared in ways refined, over countless generations. Methods producing results good enough that there's no pressure to change them. The meal is shared as darkness gathers. People eat together, as they've eaten every evening, for as long as anyone remembers. Social bonds are reinforced this way. The act of sharing food connects individuals in ways deeper than words. Whatever tensions exist, whatever conflicts have arisen, they're set aside during this moment of communal sustenance after eating. The evening stretches out in whatever direction people choose. Perhaps conversation, quiet voices sharing thoughts, or stories, or observations. Perhaps song if song is part of evenings here. Perhaps simply silence, the comfortable quiet of people who have nothing they need to say, content to sit together without speaking. The fire provides warmth and light, its flames creating a sphere of visibility in the growing darkness. The sounds of evening are different from the sounds of day. Different birds, different insects, different rhythms in the forest. The waves on the reef seem louder now, more noticeable against the quieting of daytime activity. The crackle of fire becomes more prominent, snap and pop of burning wood, audible now in ways it wasn't before. One by one, people move toward sleep. There's no set bedtime, no schedule to follow. The body knows when it's tired. The mind knows when it's ready to rest. Some stay by the fire longer, perhaps with responsibilities for tending it. Some retire earlier, particularly those who'll need energy tomorrow. The transition is gradual, individual, organic, and eventually the camp is quiet. Most people have settled into shelters. The fire burns low, maintained by whoever is charged with watching. The forest has completed its own transition. Different creatures moving through undergrowth, different sounds filling the air. The island sleeps, or most of it does, while the stars wheel overhead, and the moon, if it's up, casts silver light on water and sand and leaf. This evening is like every other. Tomorrow's evening will be like this one. The pattern repeats, has repeated for 60,000 years, will repeat as long as conditions allow. There's something deeply restful about consistency, about predictability. The world may be full of dangers and uncertainties, but here tonight, everything is as it has always been. The fire burns, the waves sound, the stars shine, and people sleep, as their ancestors have slept, in this same place, for longer than recorded history. The island rests in darkness. The night deepens over the island. Fires have burned down to coals, glowing orange and red in the darkness, pulsing gently with each breath of wind. The community has settled into sleep, bodies finding their positions, breathing slowing into rhythms of rest. The shelters are quiet, filled only with soft sounds, the occasional shift of position, the steady in and out of breath, perhaps a murmur from someone dreaming. The forest continues its nighttime activities. Owls call from somewhere in the canopy, their voices carrying through still air. Small mammals move through undergrowth, foraging while diurnal predators sleep. Insects maintain their chorus, different species now than during day, their songs forming a backdrop, so constant that sleepers no longer hear it. The beach is silver under starlight. Sand catches what illumination falls from sky, reflecting it back, creating a luminous strip where land meets sea. Waves continue their endless approach and retreat, foam appearing white against darker water. The rhythm so steady, it seems almost mechanical, but there's nothing mechanical about it, just gravity and water, and eternal motion of restless ocean. Above everything stars blaze, in countless multitudes. The Milky Way stretches across darkness, a band of light so bright, it seems impossible we ever forget it exists. Individual stars shine with subtle colors, blue-white, yellow, red-orange. Planets move among them, wanderers against the fixed background, following paths tracked for thousands of years. The moon, if it's up, adds illumination, half full perhaps, or a bright crescent, or swelling toward fullness. Its light strong enough to see by, strong enough to cast shadows, strong enough to transform landscape into something almost magical. Moonlight on water is beautiful, a shimmering path seeming to lead somewhere, though of course it goes nowhere at all. This is the setting for sleep, this combination of darkness and light, of sound and silence, of presence and absence. People resting in shelters don't appreciate it, perhaps. They've known no other nighttime environment, but their bodies respond to it, relax into it. find in it the conditions for deep rest. What do they dream? We cannot know. We can only imagine. Fragments of the day reassembled strangely. The flash of a fish in water, the face of a family member, the weight of a spear in hand, the sound of rain on leaves. Dreams incorporate experience, process it, perhaps teach through it. Whatever these people dream, it comes from their world, not from ours. The night is long in the tropics, roughly 12 hours from sunset to sunrise. Throughout the year, there's time for deep sleep, for REM cycles to complete, for the body to repair and restore. There's time for waking briefly, for attending to biological needs, for returning to sleep without concern. There's time for slow processing. Beneath consciousness, the mysterious work of the sleeping brain. And there is peace, the peace of a world with no alarms, no obligations at specified times, no anxiety about what tomorrow brings, because tomorrow will bring what it always brings. The peace of a community where everyone is known, where relationships are stable, where your place in the world is clear and accepted. The peace of a small world that makes sense, that fits, that has room for everyone it contains. The island sleeps. The people sleep. The fire burns low and is gently tended. The stars continue their slow rotation overhead. The same stars that have watched over this island for all of human history. Nothing needs to happen. Nothing needs to be resolved. There is only rest and quiet and the gradual approach of morning. What time has not changed? As we approach the end of this contemplation, let us consider what this existence means. What does it tell us about human nature, about possibility, about the many ways a life can be lived? First, we learn that stability is possible in a world obsessed with growth and change. Here is a community that has persisted for 60,000 years without apparent transformation. Their way of life works. It has worked longer than any civilization, any empire, any system of organization that the rest of humanity has devised, whatever they're doing, however they're doing it. The results speak for themselves. This doesn't mean their way is better. It means their way is one way, among all the ways humans have found to organize existence. This is one that works, at least in this environment. With these constraints, it proves constant change isn't required. Growth isn't mandatory. Stability can be achieved and maintained across geological time. Second, we learn that happiness doesn't require what we often think it requires. These people have no technology beyond what hands can make, no medicine beyond what nature provides, no entertainment beyond what they create, no information beyond what they observe, no contact beyond their small community. By modern standards, they lack almost everything, and yet they persist. They raise children who survive. They maintain social structures that allow community life to continue. They solve problems, adapt to challenges, find meaning and purpose, whatever they lack by our standards. They apparently have enough by their own. They're not missing what they never had. not wanting what they've never known. Their lives are complete within their own terms. Third, we learn that mystery persists. In an age where information seems accessible, where satellites photograph every corner, where communication spans the planet in seconds, here is a community that remains unknown. We can see them, but cannot know them. We can observe actions, but not meanings. We can imagine inner lives, but not confirm. This mystery is valuable. It reminds us the world is larger than our knowledge, that there are limits to what we can learn, that not everything exists to be understood by us, that some things simply are. Fourth, we learn that respect is possible. The protection extended to this island, the laws prohibiting contact, the decision to leave them alone. Despite intense curiosity, these represent ethical maturity, rare in human history. We have chosen collectively to value their autonomy over our desire to know them. We've chosen to accept the cost of ignorance, rather than impose the cost of our presence on them. This choice wasn't inevitable. Throughout history, isolated peoples were contacted, conquered, converted. Their right to be left alone was ignored. We could have done the same here. We chose not to. That choice deserves recognition. Finally, we learn we're not alone in our humanity, but also not all there is to humanity. These people share our biology, our basic capacities, our essential nature, but they've developed that nature in a completely different direction. They represent a road not taken, a branch of possibility that diverged from the main trunk. So long ago, the divergence is unbridgeable. They remind us human nature is vast, capable of producing not just one culture, but many. They remind us our way is not the only way. Our values are not universal. Our assumptions are local, even when they feel global. They expand our sense of what it means to be human, simply by existing as something we cannot fully comprehend. The peace of distant places. And now, as this account draws to its close, let your mind release its hold on the thoughts and images we've explored. The island can fade back into distance, from which we imagined it. The people can return to their existence, unknown and unknowing. What remains is simply the feeling, the sense of peace. That comes from contemplating something beyond reach, yet somehow touching. The night around you now, wherever you are, is connected to all nights everywhere. The darkness surrounding you is part of the darkness surrounding the island, part of darkness that will cover the entire turning earth. You're not alone in the night. Across the planet, billions are sleeping, or preparing to sleep, their bodies surrendering to the same need that your body feels now. Let your breathing slow. Let your muscles soften. Let the weight of your body sink into whatever surface supports you. There's nothing you need to do right now. Nothing you need to attend to. Nothing you need to hold in mind. The concerns of the day can wait until tomorrow. The plans and worries can wait. For now, there's only this: the gradual loosening of consciousness, the drift toward dreams. Imagine the sound of waves on distant shore, not loud, not dramatic, just the endless soft rhythm of water meeting land. This sound has existed for as long as oceans, will exist for as long as oceans remain. Perhaps the oldest continuous sound on earth, a rhythm predating all life, all land, all human concern. Let that rhythm enter your awareness, become part of your breathing, synchronize with your heartbeat. Imagine the warmth of a fire burning low, coals glowing in darkness, heat radiating outward to warm sleeping bodies. This warmth is ancient too, a comfort humans have known since they first controlled fire, countless thousands of years ago. The warmth says safety. It says home. It says nothing can harm you here. Nothing will disturb your rest. Imagine the stars overhead. Even if you cannot see them, they are there. Above the clouds if clouds block your view. Above the city lights, if lights dim their brilliance. The same stars shining over the distant island shine over you, the same slow rotation of heavens. That marks time there, marks time here. You're connected to everything, part of everything, even as you drift away from waking consciousness. Sleep is coming. You can feel it approaching, a soft tide rising within you. Your thoughts are becoming looser, less connected, more willing to float free of logic and meaning. Images may appear without context, sounds without source. This is normal. This is the transition. This is the mind beginning its journey into the mysterious landscape of dreams. Do not resist. Do not try to hold on to waking. The day has been long enough. The work is done. You have earned your rest. This rest, this particular surrender to sleep, let it come. Let everything else fall away. Let there be nothing but darkness and warmth and the steady rhythm of your own breathing. The island sleeps. The people sleep. The ocean moves in its eternal patterns. The stars continue their slow dance. And you here now, wherever you are, you too are part of this great rest, this nightly pause. In the turning of the world, sleep well, sleep deeply, sleep without worry, without effort, without trying to be anywhere other than where you are. The morning will come when the morning comes. Until then, there is only peace. The island fades into distance. The voices of the story grow quiet. What remains is stillness and rest and the gentle dark that holds you now. Sleep.